Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Nuriatul Fauziyah. I'm from English Teaching Learning Program, State Islamic Institute of Madura, from the 6th semester, especially from E class. And here, I would like to explain about my thesis task under the title, An Analysis of Students' Anxiety in Learning English as Foreign Language at the 7th grade of State Islamic Junior High School 1 Pamekasan, for thesis writing subject that is taught by Mrs. Firdausia. First, I would like to explain about Chapter 1, Introduction. In this chapter, I would like to explain about some points. For the first is research context. It is the reason why I choose this topic to be observed. I choose this topic, especially students' anxiety, to be observed because students' anxiety can give negative impacts to the students and also to the language learning. For example, it can influence students' performance in the class. It can reduce word production and make the students difficult in understanding spoken instruction. Furthermore, when the students have anxious characteristic in learning English, they will be difficult in understanding the material, become forgetful, sweat, and even dread. These situations really disturb the students in learning English in the class. Because of that phenomenon, I would like to observe about students' anxiety in learning English as foreign language. For the second is about research focus. It is the problems that will be observed by me in this research. This research has two research focuses. For the first is what factors that cause students' anxiety in learning English as foreign language, and for the second is how do the students solve students' anxiety in learning English as foreign language. For the third is research objective. It is a goal that will be achieved by me as a researcher for this research, dealing with the research focus that have been set by me just now. Because this research has two research focuses, so this research also has two research objectives. Namely, for the first is to describe what factors that cause students' anxiety in learning English as foreign language, and for the second is to describe to describe the way how the students solve students' anxiety in learning English as foreign language. For the fourth is significance of study. It is the benefits that can be gotten from this research. This research has two significance of study. For the first is theoretical significance, and for the second is practical significance. For theoretical significance, this research can improve the knowledge about this topic and it can add new information about this topic. And for practical significance, this research can give the benefit to the teacher, the students, and also to the researcher. For the teacher, by doing this research, the teacher can know about the factors that cause students' anxiety in learning English as foreign language, and the teacher will also know about how the students solve students' anxiety in learning English as foreign language, so that the teacher can fit their way in teaching with their students' condition in learning English in the class. And for the students, by doing this research, the students can know about what factors that cause students' anxiety in learning English as foreign language and how the students solve students' anxiety in learning English as foreign language, so that the students can improve their condition while learning English in the class to be better than before. And for the researcher, by doing this research, it can give new information about this topic to the researcher. For the next is the definition of key terms. It is the definition of some key terms about this topic to avoid some misunderstanding about this topic. For the first is the definition of anxiety. It is a feeling of apprehension, restlessness, or nervousness because of certain situation that is faced at that time. And for the second is learning English. It is an activity to know more about English by non-native English students. And for the last is English foreign language. It is a language that is used by non-native English students and it is learned in non-English speaking countries. And for the last is previous study. It is the study that has been done before dealing with this topic. And in this research, as a researcher, takes three previous study. For the first is the research that has been done by Yuliana Mauludia under the title The Correlation Between Students' Anxiety and Their Ability in Speaking Class. And for the second is the research that has been done by Rolly Asparanita under the title Students' Anxiety in Speaking English at the 11th grade of Senior High School 1 Muaro Jambi. And for the third is the research that has been done by Ilahi Box Gopang and Friends under the title Investigating Foreign Language Learning Anxiety among Students Learning English in a Public Sector University, Pakistan. Next, I would like to explain about Chapter 2, Review of Related Literature. This chapter contains of some theories that will be used by me for this research. In this chapter, I would like to explain about some points. For the first is the definition of anxiety, the types of anxiety, language anxiety, foreign language learners' anxiety, the factors that cause learners' anxiety in learning English as foreign language, the way to solve learners' anxiety in learning English as foreign language, and for the last is the definition of learning English. Okay, for the first point, it is about the definition of anxiety. It is a feeling of apprehension, restlessness, or nervousness which occurs because the students are exposed in a specific condition or situation. And for the next is types of anxiety. There are two types of anxiety. For the first is state anxiety, and for the second is trait anxiety. For state anxiety, it is the type of anxiety that is happened because of certain situation. And for trait anxiety, it is type of anxiety that becomes someone's characteristic. So if state anxiety just appeared in specific situation, but if trait anxiety, it becomes someone's characteristic. For the next is language anxiety. It is a feeling of tension or apprehension experienced by the students in foreign language classroom. And for the next is foreign language learners' anxiety. It is a fear of apprehension occurring when the learners are exposed or are expected to perform in foreign language. Next, I would like to explain about the factors that cause learners' anxiety in learning English as foreign language. In this part, as a researcher, takes 4 opinions about the factors that cause learners' anxiety in learning English as foreign language. For the first, it is stated in Adi Marwan Journal. There state that there are 3 factors that cause learners' anxiety in learning English as foreign language. For the first is communication apprehension. Some students have anxious characteristic because they do not understand about the material, and also they do not understand about their teacher's instruction. For the second is fear of negative evaluation. Some students have anxious characteristic because they are afraid of making mistakes in front of their teacher and also their friends, and also they are afraid of getting bad correction from their teacher and also from their friends. And for the last is general feeling of anxiety. It is sometimes the students have anxious characteristic because they are fear of failing in English class. And for the next, it is stated in Asti Gumartiva Journal. There state that there are 5 factors that cause learners' anxiety in learning English as foreign language. For the first is communication anxiety. For the second is fear of negative social assessment. For the third is test anxiety. For the fourth is the anxiety of English subject. And for the last is classroom anxiety of English learning. And for the third opinion, it is stated in Dolly Journal. There state that there are 6 factors that cause learners' anxiety in learning English as foreign language. For the first is personal and intrapersonal anxiety. It is caused by self-esteem and also competitiveness. If the students have low self-esteem, they will always think what the people said about them. And about competitiveness, the students will always compare themselves with the others so that they have anxious characteristic in learning English. And for the second is learner beliefs about language learning. For example, students have anxious characteristic because some of students believe that pronunciation is the most important thing in learning English. And some of the students also think that English can be mastered in 2 years, 3 years, and the others. So, at the end, if the students cannot achieve what they think, they will be stressed and they will have anxious characteristic in learning English. And for the third is instructor beliefs about language teaching. It means that the students have anxious characteristic because the teacher in the class believes that their role is to correct the students' wrong thing. So it can make the students have anxious characteristic in learning English. And for the fourth is anxiety related to instructor-learner instruction. It means that if the teacher in the class give correction for their students, and they give the correction in a bad way, it can make the students have anxious characteristic in learning English. And for the next is anxiety associated with classroom procedure. Sometimes students have anxious characteristic because the class is set using presentation and English quiz. So it can make the students feel anxious in learning English. And for the last is anxiety can stem from aspects of language testing. Some of the students have anxious characteristic because their teacher gives them tests in English. And for the last, it is stated by Horwitz. There are three factors that cause learners' anxiety. For the first is communication apprehension, the second is test anxiety, and for the last is fear of negative evaluation. For the next, I would like to explain about how to solve students' anxiety in learning English as foreign language. There are some ways that can be done by the students to solve students' anxiety in learning English as foreign language. For the first is preparation. Some of the students do preparation before the English class, and some of them improve their learning strategies. And for the next is relaxation. Some of the students deals with way to minimize the symptoms of anxiety. For the next is positive thinking. It is an effort to divert attention from stressful into positive thinking. And for the next is peer seeking. It is an activity that is done by the anxious students to find the other students that have anxious characteristic too. And for the last is resignation. It is unwillingness of students to alleviate their language anxiety. And for the last is the definition of learning English. It is a process which is happened to the human, and it can result in outcomes to their individual, especially about learning English. Especially about English knowledge. For the next, I would like to explain about chapter 3. It is the methodology of research. In this chapter, I would like to explain about some points. For the first is research approach and kind of research. This research is designed into qualitative approach because the data that will be gotten will be explained by describing. And this research use qualitative approach because this research is not to test a theory. This research is not to test a hypothesis that comes from the assumption of the theory, but this research will explain deeply and in a detailed way about the research focus. So this research needs many information from the participant. So qualitative approach is suitable to use in this research. And for the next is the attendance of researcher. In qualitative research, the researcher needs to come to the place where the problem takes place, because in qualitative research, the researcher is one of the instruments. So in this research, the researcher will come to the class, enter to the class, to observe the student's condition in learning English in the class. For the next is research setting. It is the place where the researcher will conduct a research. The research setting of this research is in C class of the 7th grade of State Islamic Junior High School 1 Pamekasan. And for the next is the population and sample. Population is a group of individuals who have same characteristic. And for sample is a subgroup of the target population. So the population of this research is all of the students at the 7th grade of State Islamic Junior High School 1 Pamekasan. And for the sample of this research is some of the students at the 7th grade of State Islamic Junior High School 1 Pamekasan, especially in C class. The next is data source. It is the subject where the data will be gotten. The data source of this research is the anchor students from the C class at the 7th grade of State Islamic Junior High School 1 Pamekasan. And for the next is data collection procedures. It is a way to collect the data for this research. As a researcher in this research will use three processes in collecting the data. For the first is observation. In this research, I will use participant observation because the researcher will be involved in the situation being observed. And observation can help me as a researcher to know about who are the students who have anchors characteristic in learning English in the class. After I know about who are the students who have anchors characteristic in learning English, I will continue to the next steps, especially about interview. In this research, I will use structured interview because before I do an interview with my participants, I will prepare some questions that will be used by me in interview section. And for the last, I will use documentation. I need to use documentation in this research because I need a tool to support my observation process and my interview process. For example, I need a recorder to record my participants' answer in interview section. The next is data analysis. It is a process where the researcher analyzes and arranges the data that have been gotten from the field. In this research, I will use three processes in analyzing the data. For the first is data reduction. In this part, I will summarize, focus to the main thing and select the important thing because the data that have been gotten from the field is so much, so it needs to be reduced. So it will give detailed description. And for the next is data display. In this part, the presentation of data can be in a simple analysis form. And by doing this analysis, by doing this data display, as a researcher will know what is happening and how to do next. And for the next is conclusion drawing or verification. After I do data reduction and data display, I will make a conclusion. And for the next is checking of validity of data. In this research, in checking the validity of data, I will use triangulation, especially technical triangulation. It is used to check the validity of data to the same sources by using different methods. So in this research, the data that have been gotten from observation will be checked again using interview and also documentation. And beside that, I also use member checking. In this research, I will use interview to be used to ask some questions to my participants. For the next is the steps of research. It is the way that is done by me as a researcher from the beginning until the end of the research. For the first step is identifying the research problem. In identifying the research problem, as a researcher, has been done mini interview to the English teacher that is taught at the 7th grade of State Islamic Junior High School 1 Pamekasan. I asked to the English teacher about the students' condition in learning English as foreign language in the class. And the teacher said that there are some of the students who are active in the class, but there are some of the students who are not active in the class. And the students who are not active in the class have some reasons. And these reasons include into the factors that cause students anxiety in learning English as foreign language. For the next is reviewing the literature. In reviewing the literature, as a researcher, gather some references about this topic from the journal, book, and for the other references. And for the next is specifying a purpose for research. And for the next is collecting the data. In collecting the data, like I said just now, I will use three processes. For the first is observation, interview, and also documentation. And for the next is analyzing and interpreting the data. Like I said just now, that in analyzing the data, I will use three processes too. For the first is data reduction, data display, and conclusion drawing. And for the last is reporting and evaluating the research. Next, I would like to explain about Chapter 4. It is the result and discussion of this research. In this chapter, the researcher will present about the result and discussion of this research. It is about an analysis of students' anxiety in learning English as foreign language at the 7th grade of State Islamic Junior High School 1 Pamekasan. Furthermore, this chapter also gives the answer of the research focus, namely about the factors that cause students' anxiety in learning English as foreign language and also about the way how to solve students' anxiety in learning English as foreign language. For the first, I would like to explain about the result. In this research, the researcher used observation to collect the data because by doing observation, the researcher will know the real condition in teaching learning English in the class. Besides that, by doing an observation, the researcher will also know about who are the students who have anxious characteristics in learning English. The researcher do an observation since 9 until 11 May 2021 by doing an English teaching learning process in C class of the 7th grade of State Islamic Junior High School 1 Pamekasan. Besides doing an observation, the researcher also do an interview. But before doing an observation, the researcher makes an appointment with the English teacher at that class. And after that, the English teacher allowed her to do an observation in that class. After doing an observation, the researcher also do an interview. And the researcher just chooses some students who have anxious characteristics from that class. Interview section helps the researcher to make the data more accurate. For the first, I would like to explain about the result of the factors that cause students' anxiety in learning English as foreign language. Based on the observation, the researcher know about some characteristic that is shown by the students in learning English. For example, like showing carelessness, lack of volunteering in the class, and seeming inability to answer even it is a simple question. And beside that, while doing an observation, the researcher also know about the reason why the students have anxious characteristic in learning English, and it also supported by the students' answer in interview section. For the first factors that cause students' anxiety in learning English as foreign language is communication apprehension. It is stated by the students in interview section. The student said that I feel anxious because I do not like English. I think English is difficult, so when my teacher teach English in the class, I do not understand the material, and when my teacher asks me to answer the question in front of the class, I cannot answer it, so I'm afraid about it. And for the next factors that cause students' anxiety in learning English as foreign language is fear of negative evaluation. It is also stated by the student in interview section. The student said, sometimes I feel anxious in learning English because I'm afraid of getting bad correction from my friends, because when I do wrong thing in front of them, some of my friends showed from their seat and they said that I have done wrong thing, so I'm shy because of that. And for the last factors is test anxiety. It is also stated by the students in interview section. The student said, I think I feel anxious in learning English because my teacher gives me English test, so I'm afraid I cannot do it well. And for the next, I would like to explain about the result of how to solve students' anxiety in learning English as foreign language. The researchers found some strategies that is done by the students to solve students' anxiety in learning English as foreign language. Some of them do preparation before before studying English in the class. Some of them make a preparation, do preparation in their home and also in the class before the English subject is started. And some of them said that they make themselves becomes relaxed, and they also try to make a peace with their anxious feeling. And for the next, sometimes the students also try to have positive thinking to their friends and also to their teachers' response in the class. And for the last, some of them do not do anything to reduce their anxiety. Next, I would like to explain about the discussion. In this part, as a researcher, is going to analyze about the factors that cause students anxiety in learning English as foreign language, and also how the students solve students anxiety in learning English as foreign language with the data was discussed in the previous study by using the theory which was discussed in chapter 2. For the first is the factors that cause students anxiety in learning English as foreign language. There are 3 factors that cause students anxiety in learning English as foreign language. For the first is communication apprehension, the second is fear of negative evaluation, and for the last is test anxiety. It is suitable with the factors contributing to anxiety by Horwitz and friends. They stated that there are 3 factors contributing to anxiety. For the first is communication apprehension, the second is fear of negative evaluation, and for the next is test anxiety. For the first, I would like to explain about communication apprehension. Most of the students, when interviewed by me as a researcher, said that they have anxious characteristic in learning English as foreign language because English is a new subject for them. English is different from Indonesian language, so they have difficulty in learning English in the class. They are difficult in understanding the material, and they are also difficult to understand their teacher's instruction, like if the teacher asks them to answer the questions in front of the class, and when the teacher asks them to express their feeling in English. And according to Horwitz and friends, communication apprehension becomes the first factor contributing to anxiety. Communication apprehension is a type of shyness or fear associated with communicating with the other people, especially speaking it in the public, as well as in apprehension about not understanding or misinterpreting message. For the second is fear of negative evaluation. Students said that they have anxious characteristic in learning English in the class because they are afraid of making mistakes. They are afraid of getting bad correction from their teachers in front of their friends. And it is suitable with the Horwitz and friends' opinion about the factors contributing to anxiety. They said that fear of negative evaluation is apprehension about others' evaluation, the avoidance of evaluative situations, and the expectation that others would evaluate oneself negatively. And for the last is test anxiety. Students said that they have anxious characteristic in learning English in the class because they are facing English test, and it is possible for them to put wrong answer in English test. According to Horwitz and friends, they said that the test anxiety is defined as the tendency to view with alarm the consequences of inadequate performance in an evaluative situations. In the language classroom, it refers to worry over frequent testing, which may become a source of frustration for learners as their proficiency is assessed while it is being acquired. Then I would like to explain about how the student solves students' anxiety in learning English as foreign language. From the interview that has been done by me as a researcher with the participants, namely with the ANCAS students from C class at the 7th grade of State Islamic Junior High School 1 Pamekasan, I as a researcher find some strategies used by the students to solve students' anxiety. For the first is preparation. When the students have ANCAS characteristic in learning English, they try to decrease it by doing a preparation before coming to the class. And for the next is relaxation. The other strategy used by the students to solve students' anxiety is by making themselves relax, calm, making peace with their feeling, and try to dive it. And for the next is positive thinking. In this strategy, the students must clean their negative thinking about the other people around them, especially about their teacher and also their friends. They must have positive thinking that their friends and also their teacher will not give bad comments to them if they show themselves in English. And for the last is resignation. In this strategy, the students, if they have ANCAS characteristic in learning English, they will leave their feeling and they do not try to find strategy to find it, to solve it. And all the strategies above are agreed with the strategies stated by Adi Marwan, that the specific strategies mentioned by students were grouped under 5 categories of general strategies, namely preparation, relaxation, positive thinking, peer seeking, and also resignation. But for peer seeking, in this research, there are no students who use this strategy to solve students' anxiety. For the last, I would like to explain about Chapter 5, Closing. This chapter discusses about the conclusion of this research related to the factors that cause students' anxiety in learning English as foreign language and also how the students solve it. For the first is the conclusion. The factors that cause students' anxiety in learning English as foreign language at the 7th grade of State Islamic Junior High School 1 Pamekasan are communication apprehension, fear of negative evaluation, and test anxiety. In communication apprehension factor, the students have ANCAS characteristic in learning English because they are difficult in understanding the material and also they are difficult in understanding their teacher's instruction. And furthermore, in fear of negative evaluation, the students have anxiety because they are afraid of making mistakes in front of their teachers and also their friends, and they are also afraid of getting bad evaluation from their teachers and also their friends. And for the last, in test anxiety, the students have ANCAS characteristic in learning English because they are afraid if they have English test. And the students' way in solving the students' anxiety in learning English is preparation, relaxation, positive thinking, and also resignation. In preparation strategies, to decrease anxiety, the students doing preparation in their home before they are coming to the class to face English subject. And in relaxation strategies, the students make themselves relaxed and also calm. Furthermore, in positive thinking strategies, they always try to have positive thinking about their teachers and their friends, that they will not give bad evaluation to them. And for the last is in resignation strategy, The students leave their anxious feeling and they do not try to find strategy to solve it. And for the last is the suggestion of this research. Based on those results, students' anxiety is interesting to be researched, and because of that, as a researcher, give the suggestion to the next researcher about this topic to do further research to find the other factors that cause students anxiety in learning English, and also to find the other strategies that used by the students to solve students' anxiety. I think that's all from me, the explanation about my thesis. Thank you very much for your nice attention. The last I say, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.